Coming up on the season finale of Here's the Truth.
There's nothing wrong with being very compassionate in your coverage.
Emmy Award-winning journalist Soledad O'Brien speaks to the importance of independent media.
And now more than ever, we have to be willing to stick up and say, that was bad, this is good. There's a lesson in this for journalists who are coming around now, and we have to do better.
And later, our team reflects on the season and what it means to be a part of the show. Here's the Truth starts right now. Thanks so much for joining us for our season finale of Here's the Truth. I'm independent journalist Georgia Ford. We begin by taking a moment to investigate the true essence of independent journalism with Soledad O'Brien, a nationally recognized documentarian and journalist. This week, she sits down with us to speak about the importance of the work we both do and the courage it takes to pull it all off. For those of you not familiar, Soledad is a former anchor of CNN, MSNBC. She started her own production company where she now produces Matter of Fact with Soledad O'Brien. And recently you produced an amazing documentary on Rosa Parks. You've won so many accomplishments and—
More, don't stop, Georgia, just let's keep going.
You know, honestly, I couldn't think of a better person who exemplifies courage in journalism.
Oh, you're so kind.
And when you talk about courage in journalism, I think oftentimes people think about instances where your physical safety is in jeopardy. But sometimes it takes courage just to simply tell the truth. Can you, in your own words, share with us how you define courage in journalism?
I think it depends kind of on where you are in your career and your life. I think it's always about trying to do the right thing. Right? Like, to me, that's a little bit of the North Star, like making sure that you're doing the right thing. You know, probably the more typical kind of courage is where you ask the awkward question. You hold people accountable. Sometimes that's your own bosses. You stick up for somebody who's not really in a position to defend themselves. You stick up for somebody who's not in the room to defend themselves. You know, I think all of those things are kind of definitions of a kind of courage. And I think when I've been in this business like 35 years, so you
No way.
I mean, 5 years, and you get to the point, right? You know, the longer you're in, and I'm self-employed, I think it's easier to have courage to do some things because, you know, you just put the time in. So often I have to advise younger journalists, like, you know, maybe this is not the moment to be super courageous. What are the things that you can do? Sometimes keeping your mouth shut, watching very carefully is a really good strategy as well.
Yeah, owning it.
Yeah.
Taking the initiative, having integrity, right? I think most people in the journalism industry dream of one day being on CNN or MSNBC. Where did you find the courage to step out and launch your own company?
I had a boss who didn't want me to anchor. He made it really clear. And in a weird way, it was kind of a favor. Because what usually happens if you're an anchor is your bosses say, listen, we're going to move you off of this, but we think you're amazing. And we have like a whole bunch of interesting things you're going to do, right? And 6 months go by and you're like, huh, that's weird. This didn't really materialize. You go back in and they say, oh, no, we love you. And we're going to have you do all these, right? And then a year goes by and you're like, oh, I guess this wasn't true. He said to the get-go, he's like, I don't like you anchoring. I'm going to take you off your show and I'm going to put another woman in who's younger. And he liked boy-girl, so he put 2 people in to do my show. Neither of whom are doing the show anymore. And so it was just really clear. And it was both like a little harsh, but also like, okay. He said he wanted me to be a fill-in. So I'd fill in for Anderson or anybody else's show. And I was like, you know, I don't think I'm at a place where I need to be the fill-in. That might be great for some people, but this was 10 years ago. And my kids were relatively little still. So a fill-in schedule with little kids is kind of hellacious. Regular schedule is kind of hellacious, right. So a fill-in schedule is really insane. So I was like, yeah, I don't think I need to do that. And I felt like I was making a really well-informed decision because I've been in the other circumstance. When I worked many years ago at NBC, I was a producer trying to get an on-air job or even just try to get promoted further as a producer. And I had a boss literally who used to every 6 weeks be like, I'll come back and we'll talk about it. I see great things for you. And I mean, by the fourth time, right, I was like, this is not real.
Right.
And in fact, the next time I went to his office to chat with him, he's like, project came across my desk and I think it really could be a good fit for you. And I said, oh, no, I'm here to tell you I'm quitting. I'm leaving. Because by then it was literally the fourth time. Yeah. You figure it out eventually. And so I've always tried to take like what was the good from kind of an awkward, unpleasant situation, and could, in fact, I launch something that I wanted to launch on my own. And I felt like the time was right. I had made a lot of money at CNN and I'd saved a lot of money. And so I knew I was, had the financial wherewithal as well to be able to rent space and hire people and build a company and figure it out. And I'd have a pretty long lead time to do that. And then CNN was my first client. They hired me to do a bunch of docs kind of as I was walking out the door. So that ended up working out really well. But, I never think of it as courage. I think of it as, I think I'm resilient. I think I'm a person who, if plan A doesn't work, we move to plan B. Plan B is not working, we move to plan C. My mom used to say, you take 24 hours, and cry if you need to, but the 25th hour, get up and start making a list.
How would you summarize the importance of independent media?
I think it's really important. Because, and it's also a challenge, right? It's hard to raise money. It's hard to do all these things without the backing of a big, giant company. But I do think you also, independent media really is often out there breaking stories and focusing on things that nobody else cares about at the moment. Let me tell you something. When we did Black and Missing, it was right around when Gabby Petito went missing. And her dad, said the most amazing thing when they started finding bodies as they were looking for this young woman. And really at his probably worst moment, he said, there are all these other people who need to be found, right? It was just amazing. I mean, imagine like their worst moment and the thing you think about is somebody else's child. It was remarkable. But after we did that doc, it got a lot of attention, partly around that case. And then all of a sudden, people started doing stories of Black and brown missing people. Yeah. And I was like, dang, we did it. Like we moved the needle on that. And I think sometimes independent media gets to lead on that front and tell people there are these important stories that you're missing. There's a lot of stuff we don't chase because we don't have to do what everybody else does.
Still ahead, my conversation with Soledad continues as she speaks to adding humanity in her storytelling. And later, our Here's the Truth team pulls back the curtain on season 1. But before we go to break, we check in with the people who supported us through the season.
Hey, it's Bianca, and first and foremost, I want to congratulate you on your very first season of Here's the Truth. And I would say my favorite thing, besides the really important stuff, is the ride-alongs. And I feel like people really get to see a part of your beautiful personality outside of being an amazing journalist.
This is David Hicks from Cold White Teeth Whitening, and I want to say congratulations first and foremost, and cheers on the season finale of Here's the Truth by Georgia Ford. You've done such an amazing job this year, giving so many people the opportunity to share their story.
Get access to extended interviews and exclusive content by becoming a monthly subscriber. Support the truth. Go to georgiaford.com, select support, and become a monthly subscriber today.
Are you ready to get in the best shape of your life? At Sir Boxing Club, we offer high-intensity workouts that will push you to your limits and help you reach your fitness goals. Our gym is equipped with state-of-the-art equipment and a family atmosphere. Experienced trainers will guide you every step of the way, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned fighter. Come join us today and start your journey towards a stronger, healthier you.
Black-owned businesses are vital for our community and our economy. Black Business Enterprises serves as an educational and resource hub for Black-owned businesses all around the country. We have grants available, one-on-one consulting, seminars on finances, how to manage their businesses, QuickBooks. I want people to understand that they're superheroes. They can do it all. They can, period. To learn more, visit blackbusinessenterprises.org.
It's important because we trust the news. We want to be able to trust the news. We want to be current, and we want news that's relevant and also speaks to our stories. So yeah, that's why Here's the Truth is important, because you get the truth, and we all deserve that.
I just appreciate you for being you, being authentic, and bringing that to journalism. Thank you for shedding light, not just on the positivity within the Black community that's often silenced in mainstream media, but also shedding light on the disparities that are often silenced in mainstream media as well. Your work, your storytelling is so needed. It is important, and I admire you and appreciate you for everything that you do. Thank you.
One of journalism's favorite notions is to not become a part of the story and to always remain objective. But here's the truth about our work. We aren't objects. We're people with lived experiences, with families, with feelings, and we are capable of empathy. In my conversation with Soledad, she speaks about adding humanity in her work while also having integrity in her storytelling.
Well, we are here in the Twin Cities, which has been the epicenter of a global movement following the murder of George Floyd. And in terms of stories, I think that there have been examples of phenomenal, powerful stories that have come out of the Twin Cities. The one thing I think that remains constant is the importance to document things, especially because we're living in a time where there is this fight to remove our history from classrooms. What has it been like for you as a storyteller living through this era?
Our doc, The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks, is, that's one of there's a book based on it, and that book is banned, because, as you know, Rosa Parks' story, they kind of want to remove all the race stuff out of it, which is a very big part of the Rosa Parks story. Mm-hmm. It's a crazy time, and I agree with you. I think the best defense is always more documentation, more storytelling, more tracking. It'll be interesting, right? I think journalists have a chance to hold themselves and others accountable to doing, good, fair reporting on these stories. And now more than ever, we have to be willing to stick up and say, that was bad, this is good, there's a lesson in this for journalists who are coming around now, and we have to do better. And I think for a long time, people don't like to call out their colleagues. I don't mind. If something's bad, it's bad.
Soledad, this has been incredible. Before we wrap up, what final things do you want to leave people with who are watching? What is the takeaway, the one thing that you want people to remember?
I think for me, the thing that has been helpful is to really recognize two things. That there are so many stories everywhere. I think we often don't give credit to the idea that lots of different communities have really interesting stories, and they're not the stereotypical ones that we think. Oh, Native communities, we're going to talk about poverty. Oh, Black community, we're going to talk about crime. Oh, Latinos, we're going to, so work harder to figure out what those stories are, because the one that we all think it is not accurate, number one. And number two, and I spoke about this last night, I have a tiny team, and we're very diverse. My directors are all diverse, usually women, always, women of color, sometimes men of color. But clearly, if I can do it with my itty bitty little company, it's not that hard. That's right. It's just deciding you're going to do it. That's it. It's just deciding. I am actually going to increase opportunities for Black female directors, and then doing it. That's it. It is not magic. And I know sometimes we're like, oh, the pipeline, and where do we find people? They're findable. In fact, if you need Black directors, call me. I've got a bunch. And you can do it. So I would say number two, there's no magic in it. You just have to sort of decide. And then number three, I think something that took me a long time to learn, there's nothing wrong with being very compassionate in your coverage. People are people. They make terrible mistakes. And that doesn't mean being biased and being on someone's side. It just means in how you speak about people. When we did Black in America, we did a story about a young woman. Her name is Glorious Menifee. What a great name, Glorious Menifee. And our story, our doc, was about Glorious trying to get off to college. And I remember the first pass of the script, the producer wrote the first pass, and it was, Glorious Menifee's mother is a crack addict and her father is an alcoholic. Mm. And I was like, wow, I would be so embarrassed to have her, like, plus that's Glorious's parents' dysfunction. That's not really a description of Glorious. Right. You know, and later a friend would talk to me about asset framing and deficit framing, right? Like, we asset frame the people we like. And I've written a million stories. Little Jimmy Smith, he's 12 years old, loves baseball. He wants to be a baseball player when he grows up. Every night he puts his mitt under his mattress because he's trying to soften it up, and he just got a paper route because blah, 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 right? Because we imbue him with all of this self-directed goodness. And often when we talk about people of color, especially poor people, right? It's always, the ghetto, this is dragging them down, this is sucking them under, even things that have nothing to really do with them per se, right? We rewrote, I had a fight with the producer, we rewrote it to, Glorious Menifee is a senior at Capital Preparatory Magnet School. She starts on the Magnet School lacrosse team. She is a B student. She's a peer mentor, right? Like, this is who Glorious is. And we absolutely would get to the story about her mom and her addiction and her dad and his alcoholism. Those were important to her story, but it's not the description of her. And fighting to, like, shove humanity back into these stories. Just like you wouldn't want your kid to be described in a way that was dehumanizing. You know, I think you have to think about that for everybody you're talking about. You know, it's asset framing and deficit framing. And once you start realizing, like, who's constantly being deficit framed and who do we asset frame, you really can't help but notice it. And I think it's easily solvable. You just have to decide you're going to change it. And if you're the anchor, you can really change it. Just don't say you won't read it.
That's right. Soledad, this has been incredible. I want to thank you for your fearlessness, for your courage, for your time today, for sharing your wisdom, your experiences, and your knowledge, and for blazing a trail for journalists like myself.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Coming up after the break, we introduce you to the Here's the Truth team, and they reflect on their favorite moments of season 1.
Are you looking for a unique shopping experience? One that celebrates and supports Black businesses and culture? Introducing the Black Market, the ultimate destination for all your shopping, eating, and entertainment needs. At the Black Market, you'll find over 70 Black-owned vendors, all under one roof. From food and fashion to books and art, there's something for everyone at the Black Market. So come visit on the second Saturday of the month from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. to experience the best of what Black businesses have to offer. Visit the Black Market today and show your support for Black businesses and culture. Black business is beautiful at the Black Market.
Armani, she's my purpose. I'm here to walk with her, hold her hand until she can walk alone. Kind of like being a father in this world.
Welcome to El Tejaban. Oh, thank you. We pride ourselves on using the freshest ingredients, just like our abuelitas used to. From our signature birria tacos to our fresh guacamole, there's something for everyone at El Tejaban. And don't forget to try our famous margaritas made from the freshest juices and best tequilas. Join us at El Tejaban and experience our Mexican restaurant.
Hey there, I love the show. Love independent media, independent film, independent thinking. Also, I like it when news is actual news and not puff pieces. Thanks on season 1, looking forward to season 2.
She's always honest and straightforward and always willing to go the extra mile and have conversations with the right people in order to give her viewers the uncut, unbiased, and unapologetic truth. So this is my reason for supporting Georgia Ford and her show. Thank you, Ms. Georgia Ford, for all you do in making sure that our stories are told.
Georgia Fort is the truth. I was so thoroughly impressed by her first season. The in-depth reporting that she and her team brought to us about local stories that we may have heard on the news, but never to this extent. Kudos on an excellent season. Can't wait for the next.
Season 1 of Here's the Truth has been filled with insightful conversations, laughter, and even tears. None of it would have happened without our amazing team who has worked so hard behind the scenes to pull it all off. Today, we introduce you to the team as they reflect on their favorite moments of Season 1.
What's up, y'all? I'm Pancho Francisco, and I'm a cinematographer on Here's the Truth.
My name is Kimberly Stewart, and I am the creative director for Here's the Truth.
I'm Sherry Hutar-Brockhausen. I'm the director-editor of the Here's the Truth show.
What's up, everybody? My name is Brian Few Jr. I'm the lead cinematographer and editor of the B-Blocks.
My name is Josh Cobb, and I am the lead producer for Here's the Truth.
Working on the show has been really an honor for me, and it's just been great to be behind the camera on so many really impactful speakers. And there's been a lot of times where I feel like people being interviewed, even though they're not, they're speaking directly to me. And one of those moments was when we were at George Floyd Square and Janelle Austin was reflecting on how the community has moved forward 3 years after the police lynching of George Floyd.
If we forget, we lean into the desires of white supremacy.
She was talking about how a lot of times it's easier to be in a crowd of people all chanting the same thing in a protest than it is to be that one person who stands up and really speaks out for justice. It's just a really good reminder that I need to be that person a lot of the time who's there and who's speaking out and who's always looking for justice. So appreciate it, Janelle. Thank you.
My favorite story that we did was Black Men Teach.
She said I can't dance, and I take that personally.
That's true.
Sounds like a challenge to me.
Being a 7th and 8th grade Spanish teacher, it was super cool to go into that classroom and see how Mr. White manages everything, how he's able to just, like, keep his students focused, keep them in check, all of that stuff, because I absolutely struggle with it. I don't know how he does it, but that man is amazing. I've never seen a teacher quite like him. I've never seen a classroom quite like his. So yeah, big shout out to him for helping our futures, our babies in this world grow up and become everything that we wish for them to be.
I'm just like that. I get emotional about this kind of stuff because it's real. My kids, I love them.
Favorite story has to be the cases of the murdered mothers.
We got to fight for what's right, and the plea was not right, so we're just trying to get it thrown out.
It was impactful for me, as someone that really loves and appreciates history, to go back in time to uncover or just reestablish a story that that was 3 decades old. When you look at our news headlines, our news cycles now, something very similar happened. And 3 decades apart, there's women out here that are going missing and losing their lives, and they often go unreported.
I wish I could just hold my mom and hug her and tell her that I love her. I wish I could do that.
So if I have to reflect on what my favorite story was in the season, I would say the daddy-daughter dance. I literally cried when I saw this segment come together, and the reason why is because it really exemplified to me the importance of our show. The fact that we get to amplify Black fatherhood, the fact that we get to amplify Black men in such a positive light, to me was really special.
I've always reminded my daughter that she has limitless potential.
When I was growing up, number one, Black men were not portrayed in that light. Number two, my dad wasn't really around when I was growing up. And just lastly, because I think that we're still living in a climate where Black men are not always portrayed for who they are. Great dads, great men, brilliant thought leaders, leaders in our community. And so it's just really special to see that story come together in that way.
Reflecting back, there's so many segments that I loved, but as a whole, the Joyride has been such an amazing segment.
In my veins, in my hips, in my soul, don't you know that I got Black girl magic?
It reminds me of the biggest joy that we have as a community and as a culture, is our sound. There's nothing like Black music.
I was born by the river,
I see my favorite is the Joyride with For Real.
Look at me now. I used to be lost. Letting them fall. Now that they shine. Wearing the crown.
That segment was such a combination of, you know, what he's doing in the community, what he's doing for future generations, what he's doing in music, and then his faith.
My favorite segment, or the most impactful segment to me, was Mothers of the Movement. I'm a mother of two, so it had a personal impact on me.
Sometimes I gotta call a Katie or a Miss Valerie or, you know, somebody like that just to really feel understood.
Just seeing the power and the strength of those women that have gone through something that no mother or no one should ever have to go through, and how they rose and became advocates for justice was just a very powerful thing for me.
You know, I cried for other mothers, feeling bad for someone else who loses a child. Then I had to cry for myself. I had to cry for my son too.
I just want to thank everybody for sticking with us. If you made it to episode 12 with us, thank you so much. We really stepped out to try to do something different, try to change the narrative, and couldn't be more grateful for all of you just tuning in and yeah, giving us your 30 minutes every Saturday.
Here's my truth. Georgia Fort is an amazing woman. She's a powerful journalist, and I'm so proud of all the work that she's done here in the Twin Cities. And just to see her grow to have her own show, which really represents the city of Minneapolis, and she tells the truth on everything happening in our community, which is very important for us today. So, Georgia, I just want to say job well done. I'm so proud of you, and I love you, sis.
Thanks so much for watching our season finale of Here's the Truth. I hope you all have a wonderful summer, and we'll see you back here in the fall for season 2.
To me, public functionary is the future. I think just this rootedness in really early career artists, in emerging practices and emerging artists, it's sort of like this future-looking moment.
Public functionary to me has always been about artist support and providing opportunity and resources to artists, particularly artists who haven't had access to those opportunities in the past.
Public functionary is the place where you really can plant your ideas and watch them grow.
That's public functionary. It's like in the now, but it's really investing in where we're going to be in 5 years and 10 years.